Hello. Yeah, my name is Alexey, and I will try to describe why Cypress is great and why this can be the final testing tool for all of your projects. So, I'm the CTO and founder of Front.band. It's a team, my team, what is focused on front-end development. And previously, I had 7 years of development in front-end and was a team lead in AngularJS, and React.js, and Vue.js. So what is the Cypress? Cypress is a modern testing tool. The project has started in 2014, and the public beta became available in October of 2017. So this is open source project, and it is really actively developing. So for now, it has more than 200 forks and more than 11,000 commits. But what is it, a Cypress? Cypress is a testing framework. Yeah, it positioned like for the testing framework for all of the kind of tests: the unit test, the E2A test, and acceptance test. It's like to mix the Selenium, Mocha, and Protractor together. The idea behind the Cypress is made the testing in a development process as simple as possible, to simplify for the developer the installation, the setup, and the writing the test and execution also. So to install and run the Cypress test, you just need a Node.js and npm. You just run this command, and the second command will run your test in a Chrome. So you install it, and you can write the test. As a regular JS testing framework, it has some assertions. Inside, out of the box, it has a Mocha, Chai, jQuery, and Xenon. And this all the kind of libraries what you was working previously on your other testing tools. I didn't say it on the start of my topic. We will have a quiz at the end of my presentation, so pay attention. And the price today is a monthly subscription for Head.io. So as I said, Cypress includes the Chai. So you can use the regular Chai chain exceptions to check the object value or string values. But also you can stop your function to determine the result of your function. And the spy, yeah. You can spy the function invokes and check how much time the function was invoked and what the argument and result it had. The great idea and great feature what also Cypress has is the clocks. You can control the time of your application. With this feature, you can test the logic with a set timeout and set interval usage. And for example, you can also control the date behavior, date object behavior. So for example, if your application includes the component calendar and you want to check what the default date of the page is rendered and the calendar is today, you can easily do that. Another great feature is that you can mock the API response. For example, if you have a dynamic response of your API and you want to write a test that will check the format and how your component are rendering the API response, you can easily do it by mocking. And for example, if you want to isolate your client from the API change and you don't want to test the API, then API is failing, you don't want to have the failed testing of front end, you can easily do that. The debugging. Probably it's a killer feature of Cypress. Because Cypress tests are running directly in the browser with your application, you can easily debug it. We can, for example, use the traditional debugger command and pause our test and code just like we do it when we write the code of our application. So in this example, we see here the debugger command. So just our React application, now it's update to do method. And we see when we run our test, the tests are stopped, and we have the access to the debugger. We can check the value of the variable in the scope and go through the execution stack of our JavaScript. So you can easily debug, find the bugs. You can also use a debugger inside your test. It can be the good start point to find the mistake of your application. But the question is, how Cypress work? It's a really interesting tool because the tests are in the same process with the app, yeah? And we can debug. At the debugger, we can mock the API response, we can change the time, and can do all other great things. The problem is that the architecture is not described, and what I will be talking about today, it's my assumption. I've made this assumption by exploring the code of the Cypress and trying to understand how it can work. Yeah, it's no diagram, so it can be the mistake in the description, but I think it can help you to understand how it works and why the trade-offs exist. So the main part of Cypress are driver, server, and GUI. The server is API Node.js, and driver is client's script on JavaScript what is injecting in your application to run these commands. How does it work together? When we start a test in a Cypress, it runs the server, which launches the browser. Then it can control this browser through the server process. Then server opens the Cypress GUI in browser and communicates with it. This GUI has the list of the test steps, and runner. Our app is launching inside this runner. To operate with the DOM inside our application, Cypress injects the script inside our application. And we can easily detect what Cypress is running by checking the Windows Cypress object availability. This is how it ejects, and it's a screenshot from the source code of the Cypress. Because our tests and our application are executed in the same time, in the same browser, they can easily debug. We have a native access inside our test to the native JavaScript object, to all our JavaScript and all our application under the testing. As I said, the technical documentation of the Cypress is not really fully. It's all the packages was available in the Cypress repository, but there is a described how we are working and what the purpose of all of them, but how we are working together is not described at all. I see what is commercial product, so it's very right. So Cypress is a development tool. The idea behind it is to help us to improve our development process. So tests are the regular part of our development process. It's not designed for indexing the page, spidering the link, performance testing, or other things. The first trade-off is that it runs inside the browser. This allows us to do a lot of great things, such as add a debugger and stop the test when something is failed, but it is limited us to use only JavaScript. We can't use another language like the Selenium, such as Java, Go, and other things. So Cypress, it's only JavaScript. The second thing that we can't use the multiple browser and multiple tabs like in Selenium. So for example, we can test our chat application with multiple windows and really emulate the communication between the person. in a documentation of Cypress, you can find the best practice how to avoid this. For example, they advance us to add some proxy API to, so one user will use the browser, real browser, and the second interaction will be emulated by the API responses. The first is that our tests are limited by the same origin. You can use only one superdomain in your tests. As I understand, this trade-off exists only because the Cypress has to inject the script inside an iframe, and they have to, it's a limitation of the browser. Another thing what the Cypress allows us, or our acceptance testing tool, is to take the screenshot. But also, it allows us to record the video of our test runs. It can be super useful for debugging. Also, by architecture of the Cypress, you can write your own plugins for it. You can extend it. For example, you can change the parameters what your browser are launched with, and for example, you can execute some function in the Node.js server, or add some pre-processing of your files for your files. Cypress, it's an open source project, but it also have the paid version. It's a service called Cypress Dashboard. It's useful for a team to collect the information about the test runs, to manage the team, to have the access to your previous run, to the screenshot, to the video recording, and all of this. The good news, what is free now, because it's now in beta. So today I want to compare the Cypress with the Selenium. It's a really well-known technology, yeah, what is in development for many years, and is for acceptance testing. Selenium, it's a really robust technology. Yeah, it has a lot of thinking in its ecosystem, like service for the support and other things. The Cypress is a modern tool. Yeah, it's really developer friendly, but it's a new, and it is not supported by a lot of services. The first comparison case is the execution speed. The main difference between these two technologies is that Selenium runs execute all its command through the network. So the speed of the network, even if your application is in localhost, it also takes up to 1 second to transfer the data and establish the connection. That's why, but instead Cypress is running locally, and the test and your application are in the same window. They don't have to communicate through the HTTP. The debugging. Because Cypress test and application are running in the same browser, you have the native access to your JavaScript object. You can, for example, expose your Redux store object to the window and have the access to it inside your test. For example, if you want to check how your Redux state is changing during your test cases. With Selenium, you can do that, because Selenium has two main parts. It's a WebDriver and the bindings. It's your wrapper what is using for running your tests. And the WebDriver is some program what is controlling your browser. And they are communicated through the network. And all the objects what they're sending, they are serialized, and it's JSON protocol. So it's not the same object what you have in JavaScript. It's a serialized and deserialized object. So you don't have the native access to it. In a programming language, the Selenium has the big advantage. You can write a Selenium test using the Java, the JavaScript, the Ruby, and another different language. Then Cypress only supports JavaScript. When we are talking about acceptance testing, probably the main comparison case is supported browser. This Selenium, it's easily to run in a probably all the browser what exists. There are the WebDriver for a Chrome, for a Firefox, for a EE, for a Safari, and all of browser. And we have the services like a browser stack, like the South Lab, what Automate for us, and they can access them remotely. We don't have to install. We don't have to run them locally. We just have to pay some money, and we will have them. Instead, Cypress, for now, it supports only Chrome. In the roadmap, they have the Firefox, and I see the EE also. So this is our comparison. This is Selenium, and this is Cypress. So I see that Cypress is super developer friendly. It has a good execution speed, so it speeds up our own development process. And it has a really good feature like a debugging, so we can easily debug our app during the application. So for example, when you have some sequence of actions, what you have to perform to test your new feature, you can like make the TDD. Yeah, you firstly write your test and execute them, and in this case, the execution speed matter. Yeah. Instead, then you use Selenium. It's impossible because you can so easily debug like this Cypress. But then they are talking about the enterprise solution, and we want to test on many browsers in Chrome for a cross-browser, in Firefox, and our browsers. In this case, Selenium, it's better. As I said, the Cypress is really actively developing. So it has the roadmap, and they're working on the concurrently run of the specs and also the support of the Firefox and other great things. So this is probably all about the Cypress. I think it's a really great tool. I've used it before, the Nightwatch, the Protractor, the Howitzer, and it's all the wrapper around the Selenium and like a Phantom.js. But in my experience, the Cypress is the best one because it has really good documentations. It's easily to install. You don't have to run some background process like the Selenium. You don't have to automate anything. It's easily run on CI. It's easily to debug. So I think you have to try, really. Thanks. Yeah. So the quiz today is, you've seen that it was a lot of emoji in the application. And the quiz is, the winner has to say what the topic was for all of these emojis.
And
so,
what do you give to the winner?
Yeah, the gift for the winner is a monthly subscription for Egghead.io. I think it's the best resource for a front-end developer.
So, any guesses? Raise your hand, and someone who will be the most exact will give the prize. Yeah.
You have one picture what Selenium support. What quiz Cypress support? This one.
What do you mean? Yeah.
My question: how do you solve your problem? What when Cypress can support opposite to Selenium,
Mm-hmm.
and come back?
I think it's we have to solve this problem because the Cypress is development tool. It's not really the technology for a QA. It's technology for developers. So when you write your code, you are writing the test. And in this case, it's not so important for you to run your tests on a big variety of the browser. You can just run in the Chrome and be sure what is really manually right, correctly work. If you need the cross-browser support, probably it's a task for your QAs to write the Selenium test and other great things. But But I think that Cypress will solve this problem soon. So it's not, it will not easily support the WebDriver like in Selenium, yeah, because the WebDriver, it's old technology and it has a big variety of browsers that support it, but we have a time, have to have a time to support them.
Let's maybe return to the quiz.
Yeah.
So any guesses? You need just to say, for example, I will give a spoiler, poop emoji was debugging. And then, for example, clock emoji was something else. Any guesses? Anyone wants a cat subscription? There are so many great courses there.
As I see what Katya will have the subscription. As I see what Katya will have the subscription.
Yeah, so I will get a subscription then. So any guesses? Just raise your hand. Yeah, I see your hand.
I have a question about Cypress.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go. Go.
When we develop a server-side, server-side rendering application, we don't have Windows, and Cypress cannot get selector. You meet with this problem, and how you fix it?
Really, I don't understand why you have this problem, because Cypress runs your application through the URL. So it runs in a browser, so you don't have to face this problem.
You tried?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay.
So it is not the unit testing of your server code. Yeah, it's like an acceptance test. You can, for example, test your production website. So it's like this. You run the website, the architecture. You run the website. It injects its script, what execute inside your instance, yeah, of the application, inside your window, the command, for example, to click on the some element here, and it's not about your server code. It's about like a native access to your elements on the client inside a browser.
Okay, Sam.
Question about Cypress. So you said this is a developer tool. So what's the development life cycle? I mean, when you write the code, the steps for unit tests is that you create a function,
Yeah.
and you either wash the code, so it's run in the background, or you run it manually.
Okay.
So what's the steps to run to use Cypress for developers during
Okay.
the development?
Okay. I shown the command to run it in the terminal, yeah, but it also has the GUI. What is, you just put there your folder of your application. You can run from the GUI your test, and they have the live reload of the test, and you can really do the BDD. You write your test, and after that you write your code. You can enable the watching. You can enable. It's not a problem really.
So basically, I have to have the local my service or product running locally,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
have to use the local URL for doing that. See, because you mentioned we can test a production one.
Yeah, you can. No. You can test the production, but it is not designed to do that consistently. Yeah, in a CI, probably every hour. But I don't think it's the problem. In example, I've seen that they are running, for example, to do app what is deployed in some server. It's not a problem. The trade-off, the limitation, is what your application has to be only in one super domain. You can't switch on another domain. That's why it's not designed, for example, for a production, because in some case you have to trick your code, trick your application, trick your API to not have the external domain used in your scenarios. That's why.
So another question or maybe quiz guess? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the talk. I think that no one guesses the quiz because you've gone through slides too fast.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think first one, rocket for letting the execution speed, clock for pausing the application, controlling the time, and sleeping emojis for trade-offs, shit for debugging, and popcorn for comparison of Selenium and
Yeah. The one is right. or two, yeah. The clock and the, I don't know, the sheep. The kaki.
So you said it's not suitable for continuous integration.
No, it can, yeah. But you have to also run the locally your application.
Just write a little more process self.
Okay. So in our projects, our CI process have this step. They're cloning the project, we install dependency, we run the linter, they run the unit test, they are separated, it's a jest, it's not a Cypress because it's really not the unit test. Then they build our Docker container and we run it inside our CI to have the production, the production artifact of our application. And then they run the Cypress, what is execute, they test our Docker container, and that's how we're testing. Yeah. So the Docker container is running inside a CI, and then they run in the background.
Other questions? No? So,
Yeah.
Where?
The winner.
You have a winner with 2 correct guesses.
Yeah, the first one is API mocking. So the Cypress you can mock your API responses. The second one is about the controlling the clock in your application. The third one is about execution speed. The fourth one is about debugging, and the fifth one about the supported browsers. So, thanks all.